Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Josefine Meets. And today I have a very super special guest. I have Malcolm Larri here with me. And before we before we introduce him, let me give a little bit of a background why I think he is such a fantastic guest. Because when I quit my corporate job in 2019, I was super scared, I was super lost, and I had no clue what I wanted to do. And I listened to a podcast back then that was it's I think it's still online, but it's not active any longer. It was the Sunshine podcast. And I listened to that one, and Malcolm was a guest. And when I heard his episode, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And and if Malcolm can do it, I can do it. And I actually connected with Malcolm afterwards.
Fantastic.
And that
I
is
love that
what this
story.
whole thing is about, right?
Great. Isn't it
So
great?
without any other introduction, let me give you Malcolm Larri, who is a coach. He is a how do you say it, like conference facilitator and a workshop facilitator.
Yep.
And you're the master of elevator pitches, which is a little bit the topic that we are going to go into today.
Yeah.
But Malcolm, please give us a little bit of a background about you and who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So the first thing I just want to say, I've got some hay fever, so please excuse any sneezing during this session. So my name is Malcolm Larri, leadership and culture consultant, and I'm working with individuals, teams, and companies to help them manage change. And I've been doing that now for 25 years. I started by just coaching people individually, starting in like 97, 98, in my 25th year, I think it is, of coaching people. And that led to coaching teams. And then coaching teams led to working with organizations. And now I am sort of a pizza with everything because I'm working with corporates, I'm working with individuals, I work with startups every year, helping them define their pitches. And I'm working at Betty School of Communication in Hyper Island as well, helping their students learn how to communicate their professional value. And I think our ability to communicate our value in the marketplace now is so critical because I think that in the marketplace now, everybody needs to think of themselves as an individual brand that is marketable, the value of that brand can increase. And we actually have more opportunity than ever before in history to actually set our value in the marketplace. And I think that is an opportunity everyone should be taking.
Absolutely. And what I also think is critical because we don't know what happens like 2 to 3 years further down the road. If I look back 2 to 3 years before I really handed in my resignation, I didn't have any idea or didn't even think about resigning one day. But if I had started building my personal brand already then,
Yeah.
so many things would have been different. And I actually connected with one of my prior colleagues a while back, and I told him on LinkedIn, I said, I think you should add a profile picture. And his comment was like, Josephine, that is not really one of my priorities these days. And I was like, maybe it should be. Maybe it should be one of your priorities.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that, Malcolm, to build because there are many people who are really scared about building their personal brands when they are still in an organization. Like, that I even heard comments about, I think the company tracks everything we do. And if I put something on social media, they might punish me in one way or the other. So what are your thoughts? Because I bet you have heard these comments too.
Well, I think you need to respect sort of your company's boundaries of what they accept. They probably may not be happy about you talking about, let's say you're a marketing person, you start talking about the company's marketing campaigns and how you came up with it. They might think that's sort of proprietary and in-house. But if let's say you're a digital marketing expert and you're working inside Swedbank, why wouldn't you go online and talk about things that you know about, talk about trends? As a digital marketing expert, these are the macro trends that I'm seeing. These are the things that I think AI will impact digital marketers on. Why wouldn't you be out talking to the marketplace about the value you have? And I don't think many companies really actually have most companies don't have policies about it. The ones that do, they generally have pretty defined boundaries that you can't talk about what we do here and you can't talk about our customers. That doesn't mean I can't go out to the marketplace and say, these are
Mhm.
the big trends that I'm seeing. Hey, did you see what Pepsi just did? Hey, did you just see what Microsoft's doing in their new campaign and why it's so clever? Why wouldn't you be out there telling stories, sharing your insights? Because at the end of the day, I think the myth of the marketplace is you get paid for your education. If I have a university degree, then I'm going to get paid a certain amount of money based on my education. And that might be true for things like engineering or, some certain things, but most people are actually going to pay you for insights, for your knowledge, wisdom, and experience. And
Mhm.
so your CV, I always tell students, your CV is just your invitation to get into an interview. And then
Mhm.
in the interview is where you actually make your kind of push your CV aside basically and say, this is what I can offer. And this is where most people fall down, Josephine, because they don't know their value. They don't have a value proposition. They don't know how to share that value. And so I think, though, when somebody says, it's not my priority to be out in public, I think that's really short term thinking. And why
Mhm.
wouldn't you invest an hour a week, 2 hours a week into building some personal brand, building a network? I mean, I've got over 5,000 followers on LinkedIn right now. Even if I pivot, if I go out tomorrow and say, I don't want to have my business anymore, I'm looking for a job, I've got 5,000 eyeballs on me that would have a huge networking effect. And even if you're not planning to be an entrepreneur, just that network, the network effects. I'm looking for an amazing such and such to join my team.
Mhm. Mhm.
Amazing shortcuts, available.
Absolutely. Or people, when they kind of like get a little bit older, usually they want to take on, board positions or whatever that might be, or advisory role positions. And then
Yeah.
it's also so much, as you say, it's a shortcut and you have already built that network. So yeah, definitely, as you say.
Yeah. And why would you climb a ladder when you could have an escalator? Right?
Exactly. I
But
even
just
had someone saying, "Oh, I have built the wrong network. I need to tap in," because now she was looking for a job. She'd been an entrepreneur for many years and now she was looking for a job. I need to tap into my old network. I was like, but it's not as if you have this network and that network. You have one network of really
yeah.
important and like usually supportive individuals.
Yeah. And I think don't underestimate the power of like third and fourth connections. I'll give you a really great example of this. Is yesterday I did a breakfast workshop in Malmo, rock and roll, having a great time. Everyone leaves going, yeah, it's great, fantastic. 1 hour later, one of the participants that I've never met before tagged me in a post where someone said, we're looking for someone to come and talk to our teams about change, urgent need. And this lady wrote in on LinkedIn, I've found your guy, and tagged me in the post. So I meet somebody, someone sees me do my work. Now I got connected to a lady in Copenhagen by a lady in Malmö. Don't know either of those ladies personally. The network effects are phenomenal. You should be
Yeah.
leveraging them.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I really like this. So if someone says, so we talk a little bit about personal branding and we talk about a little bit like if you're an entrepreneur, but even if you are kind of like working in corporate or you're having a role in a corporate, if we move into a little bit the pitch, the elevator pitch, because we
Yeah.
only have so many seconds if it's meeting someone in person or if it's on social media or wherever it might be. So what are kind of like if we try to break it down a little bit,
Yeah.
so where does someone need to start first if they have no clue? Because that is a little bit, when I quit my job, I had been in banking for 20 or almost 20 years. I had program management, project management skills, but I was like, I don't know anything. You feel that, and it's so hard to see your own skills and what you're really good at
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
unless you have someone who helps you do it, right? So where would you say that someone starts figuring out what they're good at?
Yeah. So when someone comes to me for coaching or I'm doing a workshop on this, the first thing we do is we talk about value proposition. What is your value proposition? Meaning, what is the thing that you do that actually creates the most value? And let's say let's just take an example. What role did you have before you quit your job?
I was a program manager within operational risk. So it was
Great.
very, very
Operational risk.
specific.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now tell me, Josephine, what did you do in that job? What was the thing that you did in the job that made the most impact every day? What were the things that people came and asked you for help with, where you love to spend your time? So you were working with programs and operational risk, but inside of that role, what were you doing that made you really, really valuable?
I think one of my major skills, and that is also something that I've kind of been working on later on too, is the whole networking thing. Like being the go-to person when someone didn't really know who to talk to next.
Great.
So
Great. So you were the hub, yeah,
yeah,
the people,
yeah,
and you connected talent with need.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
And-
definitely, yeah, and
Yeah.
made sure that everyone who needed to be in my particular program, made sure that everyone who needed to be involved was involved too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so your value is actually connecting people and connecting talent to problems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so your value proposition is that you're a connector, right?
definitely. Yeah.
Right. And then you could, if I asked you, if you look back 2 or 3 roles that you had, can you see that maybe that in your other roles that you had, you also naturally did the same thing? Is that something that could be
Yeah,
true?
yeah, definitely. And I always saw like networking more like a natural thing because you never know, I remember in particular I was an auditor like very long time ago, and I remember talking to a woman in a totally different department, just connecting with her, and then some weeks later I needed something from her department, and just because I knew immediately who to go to, instead of trying to figure out, I could immediately call her and say, hey, i
Right.
need I need a file.
So it wasn't random networking, it was competence. You
Yeah.
would go out and you'd sort of make a map of competence in the organization, and then you'd be connecting competence to need all the time. Yeah?
Yes, subconsciously. So I didn't, it wasn't
Yeah.
as if I was targeting the
No.
people, but
But
it
it's
was more subconsciously. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and this is what most people's value proposition is. It's this subconscious way that they work inside their role, inside the company, that they keep doing over and over again. And when I work with people, they realize, oh, I'm a competence networker or I'm a
Hmm.
competence connector. Yeah, whichever
Hmm.
way you prefer to phrase it. But what you see is that everybody has something like this. Now, in your current role as your business owner, coach, etc., you're doing more or less the same thing,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's
Right?
sending
And
resources,
yeah,
sending resources, connecting people with people. I always connect people with people. I got some, connect request from someone. I was like, oh, that person needs to connect with that person, always. Yeah.
I think the thing to really recognize is, oh, my value proposition is I'm a connector of
Mm-hmm.
competence and opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And so then now we've got this fundamental DNA of your value proposition to go out to the marketplace with. And I love to actually, when I do a workshop on this, basically get people to look at some of the most famous brands in the world. What is
Mm-hmm.
Apple's value proposition that we're addicted to? What is Tesla's value proposition? And if you break down Apple, you might get, when I ask the audience, tell me, get in groups of 2, one of the things that they start to see is that they all start to say the same things about the brand or about the company,
Yeah.
and they start to see that even though the company's not saying it out loud in their branding or in their pitch, they've
Mm-hmm.
subconsciously picked up those messages. So
Mm-hmm.
Apple, innovation, but also beautiful design
Yeah. Yeah.
that they've done for 30 years. They've kept innovating, but they've never strayed from their value proposition of being the most beautiful products, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that's the DNA. They can do anything they want so long as they don't break that promise of beautiful design.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you could go out to the marketplace with your value proposition and saying, this is my promise, I will connect talent to opportunity. I am a competence magnet or I'm a competence networker. And now that you make this you've got this value proposition. For me, it's managing change. My value proposition is I help individuals, teams, and organizations manage change. That's all I get paid for. It's all I've gotten paid for 25 years. But I'm really clear about that. So every time someone calls me, I know I'm helping them manage change. But let's take you, for example, and we're going to build an elevator pitch. So you start by telling people up front who you are as a value proposition. So as a competence connector, how would you like to phrase it, Josephine? Would you say competence networker? How would you like to phrase it? What feels good for you?
I think I would actually want to have, because what I think it does, but maybe that comes later, because what it does is it actually creates opportunities for other people, right?
Yep.
To connect with more people. And I remember once, it's a little bit of a sidetrack, but
Yeah.
I remember I had one coffee chat with someone, and she wanted to pitch me her strategy half day thingy. I had went to that meeting because I thought there was some kind of collaboration opportunity for us, and she started pitching me immediately. So I felt, a little bit didn't feel good. And then in her pitch, it was also that if I pay her to hire her for a half day strategy session, she might give me access to her network. And for me, yeah, you can imagine I was like, what? No,
Yeah.
you don't. So that was kind of like, that was such a no-go for me, right? To no, that's not where we go. So I think it's to create opportunities for other by connecting the right people with the right people without me kind of like knowing, okay, so of course I have like an idea of where it might lead, but it's more like if I connected the two of you, and I do that almost daily in LinkedIn. I always do like this
Yeah.
3-part messages. If I connect the two of you, but you have it now in your hands to take it further on. So
Let's just, for the sake of this little short, session,
yeah,
call you an opportunity connector.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so then you start with something like every day as an opportunity connector, I'm matching people to opportunity or opportunities to people.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing so, I create a network effect that
Mm-hmm.
allows my clients and people in my network to have greater access to opportunity. Something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a very general one,
Yeah,
in terms of that's
fluffy.
quite broad, but then we'd refine it. So
Yeah.
what do you call yourself right now, Josephine? What is your job title? I know you as Josephine, but I never stop to look at your job title. What do you call
This is where you're like, ooh, when you have like a pitch specialist in front of you, that's where I failed, not once but several times. Where I
But what do
say,
you call yourself currently?
I think I say, I know I say, I'm a business coach and mentor for former corporate professionals to help them create
Great.
their businesses. Yeah.
Great. So now we're getting more specific. So as an opportunity connector, every day I help people transition from corporate life to entrepreneurship by helping
Mm-hmm.
them connect their skills and value to opportunities in the marketplace. And I
Mm.
teach them not only do it for them, but I teach them how to do it every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And now we're
Love that.
starting to get it's like, oh, I'm an opportunity connector. And so now
Yeah.
we've taken your value proposition and now we're connecting it to your target market. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think I said something like I've had 4 coffees and I'm downloading this from the universe as we speak. But I'm an opportunity connector who helps people transition from corporate life into entrepreneurship. And now
Yeah.
we've already told in people in like one sentence, really a lot about what you do and who you do it for.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
And so now we need to just add the last piece, or the last pieces, which is how do you do it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm gonna add to it now. So as an opportunity connector, I help people transition from corporate life to entrepreneurship through coaching and workshops so they can build up their own businesses and learn how to connect to opportunity every day and share their value with the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now you've
Yeah.
got a really nice, compact, what was that, 20-second elevator pitch which tells people basically everything they need to know about you in one kind of small, compact thing, because we've covered your value proposition, your target market, your products and services, and how people are changed by them.
Yeah, and I think it still creates a little bit of a curiosity. So okay, so
Yeah,
tell me more about it, because I think that
yeah,
is also really important. Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, once you say that and you've given people that big picture, one of the great things that people don't understand is that when you have an elevator pitch like that, and you can
Mm-hmm.
say really clearly, and I'll just see if I can remember it and repeat it. Hey, I'm an opportunity networker, and every day I help people transition from corporate life to entrepreneurship through workshops and coaching so that they can actually share their value with the marketplace and opportunities every day. What
Mm-hmm.
you've done then is you've created a framework in their head, which now you can have a much bigger and much more detailed conversation because you've already told them everything they need to know. So now you can go into much more detail, and their brain is actually primed for much more detail because they're not
Mm-hmm.
trying to guess, why are you telling me this? Now, I
Mm-hmm.
often tell startup companies, I often teach, startup companies to pitch their business in 7 sentences. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to pitch me your startup in 7 sentences. And I work with about 150 startups a year, working with Antler and Digital Well and these other startup generators. But I tell them, if you can't tell me what your business is in 7 sentences, you won't be able to tell me in 45 minutes either. But
Yeah.
if you're going to talk to me for the next half an hour about your business, tell me everything I need to know in like 60 to 90 seconds so that
Mm-hmm.
everything I say after it will make much more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I already
Mm-hmm.
know the
Mm-hmm.
whole story. Now you're just giving me more and more detail. And the brain loves to work that way, to have that, oh, I've got the big picture. Now give me the detail about the big picture.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is your elevator pitch, Malcolm?
My elevator pitch is, I already given it to you a couple of times, but um, every day
Probably
I
I've
help
heard it, but then it's like, okay, so
yeah,
yeah.
every day I help individuals, teams, and organizations manage change through energetic and interactive workshops and coaching, so that they can fully engage all of their talents, knowledge, and wisdom in creating the next level of their business and their life.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that. It changes a little bit every day depending on how many coffees I've had. It gets more or less exciting.
And I also think it has to change. It has to live a little bit depending on where you are and
Yeah,
in which, I mean, if you would be, let's say, cocktail party with, I don't
yeah,
know, wine connoisseurs or whatever, you
yeah,
might need to change it a little bit. The reason why I said wine connoisseurs is because we're going to a wine event on Saturday, so
yeah.
need to have it prepared for that, right?
Yeah. But I mean, even, if you've just given the first part, you don't need to go into
Mhm.
like the whole thing about energetic workshops and you can say it much more casually at a party. It's like, oh, I work with some of the biggest companies in the world, helping them manage change, depending on like what I want to share.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
I'm a leadership and culture consultant, and I work with large companies on their leadership and culture, and I help them manage change. What do you do? You know,
Mm-hmm.
it depends the audience you're in. If you're in serious networking mode, if you're in casual networking mode, and if I'm at a dinner table, I don't need to tell them everything in the first 30 seconds because we're going to be together for 90 minutes. And if we get a conversation going, then it's just going to be a natural conversation.
Yeah. Are there any things that are no-goes? Absolutely not include that in your elevator
Well,
pitch.
you actually talked about it, about your experience of,
Oh yeah.
yeah, of someone, my background is NLP, neuro linguistic programming. And in neuro linguistic programming, there's a saying which is rapport is everything. Or, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, rapport is everything.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do it, but you're not going to get anything you want without it, is kind of
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
saying, something like that. And the person that you were with, they didn't build enough rapport and connection with you before they offered you something. And so then you
Mm-hmm.
got this really horrible salesy feeling, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
I
so,
also went there with a totally different intention, right?
yeah,
And I wasn't ready for her offer, if because I had this was fairly soon after I had quit my job.
Yeah.
And she was offering me something. I was like, I don't even know if I need this, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And also, she didn't actually build enough connection to you to know
Yeah.
what to offer you.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there that would that are networking in a sort of a little bit of a desperate way. It's like you need to
Mhm.
buy this from me because I need to sell it, and you can really
Yeah.
feel that. And so I think that once you've done your elevator pitch and you're kind of established who you are and what you do, just focus all of your attention on the other person.
Mhm.
If they have a need, they will buy from you. If they
Mhm.
don't have a need, they have no reason to buy from you.
Yeah.
But if they feel really good about you, they'll tell other people about you.
Yeah.
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 And so for me, I never go into any situation with an intention of really selling anything. But if I make a strong enough connection and there is a need there, then I will get business. And my business grew by 60% last year, and I don't spend any money on marketing. I have a zero marketing budget. And the business grows and grows, and the reputation in the marketplace is the best thing for that. The best, doing good work is
Yeah.
always the best marketing. But even when I'm just meeting people, I'm just really trying to make a connection, a genuine connection, know the person, and really just trust that as I meet people, I will meet enough people, and I do, to have a thriving business. And not everyone needs to buy from me. But my mission every day is to make sure that everyone that I meet feels really good about meeting me. Because if I do that, then there's always an opportunity for another meeting or for them to recommend me. But I definitely want them to feel valued. I mean, that's really such a big mission of my work, is for
And I think
people to
that,
feel good and feel valued. So, don't be salesy. And I think make a connection is much more important than make a sale. If you make a connection, you might make a sale. But if you only make a friend or add someone to your network, that's plenty. That's a big win.
yeah, and this person, if you think about this person, I still remember the name. I would never ever recommend that person to
Yeah,
anyone.
right. Yeah. And
But
this
if
is
you
the
say,
power of reputation.
yeah, and but if they would have just told me about what they were doing, first of all, I might have become ready maybe a couple months down the line, and then have invested in that. Or I might have known someone who was already ready that I would recommend that person to. Like the person that you met on this workshop that you were, who then recommended you to this other company in Copenhagen. I mean,
Yeah.
that's major, right? Yeah.
Right. And she only did that because she left the breakfast workshop with a feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? She didn't
Yeah.
walk out with a proposal. She didn't walk out with anything. She just walked out with my business card and a great feeling about what she just experienced in this 1 hour breakfast workshop. And I just immediately went out into the world, and wanted to share that feeling with somebody, and she did. Right? So
Yeah.
it's fantastic. But I think just getting back to the elevator pitch, the best thing about the elevator pitch is it makes you feel confident about yourself. Yeah, it makes you feel confident about yourself and what you do, so that when you're sitting with somebody, you can confidently talk about it rather than going, "That's a really good question. What do I do?" Just say, "Yeah, this is what I do, and I'm really good at it," and be confident that you're good at it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
So I need to rehearse on my connector
yeah,
I can't even remember. I need to rewatch this episode.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Every day
I
I
did,
every day
and I
I
think that
connect.
is one thing too. It's not
Yeah,
set in stone, so it will develop and further
yeah. And I
kind
always
of
tell
grow.
people, like,
Yeah,
just have that shitty first draft, work with it for a while, and then upgrade, upgrade, upgrade. And also, I think over time, it just becomes much more natural to say it. You
mm,
know, as a coach, speaker, conference host, for 25 years, I've been helping people manage change. That sounded really strange to me when I started saying it, but now I've said it so many times, it feels really normal.
yeah,
And it's actually a really good conversation starter as well, like managing change. How do you do that? Well, I coach, I do workshops, I do webinars, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. And of course, if you have a really good value proposition, you can build all kinds of things around it. So as an opportunity networker, which you are, or opportunity connector, you can write a book, you can
Mm.
have a YouTube channel, you can just keep building it, but just stay in that around. Just make sure you have a value proposition that you can pivot around. And this is
Mm-hmm.
what I talk so much about with startups is, you've got to have a value proposition so you can add and subtract products and services, and that's pivoting instead of just drifting along into different areas. It's like
Mm.
people start, I'm making a health app, and you come back 6 months later, what are you doing? We've opened a car wash. How did you go from a health app to a car wash? We pivoted. No, you didn't pivot, you drifted. And so, as an opportunity connector, you might say, I want to work with people who are transitioning from corporate to entrepreneurship. But then maybe 5 years from now, it's like, no, I want to connect huge corporates with other huge corporates who are unbelievably good at sustainability to create a network effect across huge corporations. It could be anything in 5 years, but you're still
Mm.
that opportunity ninja that you
Mm-hmm.
are, because that's your natural gift, right? That's your
Yeah.
God-given gift of being able to just naturally, you see things that other people don't see.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I call myself Sherlock and Watson, depending on who I'm talking to.
Yeah, but Sherlock or Watson, right? So that's
Yeah.
you. And when you go into a room, and by the way, I want to say one more thing before we run out of time, which is that if you want to kill imposter syndrome, really know your value proposition.
Mm.
Because when you know your value proposition, you can walk into any room with any group of people and know what your value is and just center yourself in it. Hey, I'm the guy who manages change, you know, and I can walk. And, my background is I didn't finish high school, I didn't go to university, just climbed the ladder one rung at a time through really hard work and self development. But I could walk in, I have walked into the boardroom of huge companies and just stood there and like told them how to do things. And it's not that I know everything, but I know everything about what I know about. And
Oh,
I always
that's a good
say,
one. I know
and I
everything
always,
I
and I
know
always
about what
say
I
to
know about.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know everything about what I know about. So if you want to talk about managing change, I'm a ninja at that. It doesn't matter if you're the CEO of H&M or Elon Musk. If I'm in a room with you and we're talking about that thing, I'm the guy. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
really confident about that. But also imposter syndrome, just walk into a room and know this. Nobody knows what I know, how I know it. That
Mm.
your gravity.
Mm.
Your journey, Josephine, from corporate to entrepreneurship and the way you did it taught you things that nobody else knows. And so you can
Mm-hmm.
just go into any room and know that nobody knows what I know, how I know it, right? And that's the same for everyone in the room, so we're all equal. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the elevator pitch is a great way to get to that value, to peel that onion and make that happen.
Oh, there are so many gems. I'm taking notes as we speak, and I'm just waiting to put this out there in the world because this is amazing, Malcolm. And how can people, because you are also a power connector. You could have said back
Mm.
then, hey, Josephine, you know, but you didn't. We connected and
Yeah.
we DM back and forth. And now today I got to have you here on my show, which is amazing. So how can people connect with you?
Yeah, for sure. So anyone that wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn, that's where I'm mostly active these days. I also have a little Instagram at Brave Coach. A lot of pictures of my kids though, so just be warned. A lot of pictures of kids and my drum set and me on stage and stuff. But connect with me. I'm really happy to connect. But the way that I ended up here today is a beautiful example of you not having to know all the ways it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, I used to stand This is true story. I'm a bit embarrassed to say it, but when I was a teenager, whenever I was in the shower, I would practice being interviewed. So I'd be in the shower and I'd be like, "So Malcolm, what are your thoughts on this?" And I would practice being interviewed. So I kind of practiced for this life. But then I came to Sweden. Let's just connect show all of the connections of how I got here. So I meet a lady in Sydney. I decide this is the one. I move to Stockholm. I get a number of jobs. I go through those jobs. And then while I'm working in those jobs, I'm building my coaching business underneath and I'm building a network. I meet a lady named Jenny. Jenny brings me to Hyper Island to lecture at Hyper Island. Two ladies in the class at Hyper Island work for Hammer and Hanbury. Those ladies invite me to be in their kickoff. That goes really well. They invite me to be a consultant in their company. I then do a breakfast workshop for Hammer and Hanbury. One of the ladies from the Sunshine Pod, what was that group called? I can't remember that name of that networking group. It was a
For
women
something. Yeah.
for good living.
Yeah.
For Good Living
Yeah.
network. Karina from and I
Yeah.
forget the other lady's name. Wonderful ladies were in the audience. They invite me to come and speak at For Good Living and be on their podcast. You heard the podcast. We got connected. Now I'm here.
Yeah.
None of it was planned.
No, and before that, I actually went to one of their retreats, for good living retreats or retreat. Yeah, it was like a weekend workshop where everything kind of like started, where I started listening to their workshop. So it's like a little bit like parallel universes going on, and you grabbing all the opportunities along the way that presented themselves to you in various, not saying, no, you know what? I'm staying in Sydney. That lady can go back home again, you know?
Yeah, and also
So
you do the podcast, and you don't know if it's going to do anything or nothing, or it's going to be a million seller, or one person will hear it. And this is the magic of just putting yourself out there, sharing your value, and you don't know when you plant a seed, when it's going to bear fruit. I had a
yeah,
gentleman call me up 2 weeks ago and said, "I saw you speak 6 years ago at an event. And today we were having a meeting, and I thought that would be the perfect guy for our kickoff."
yeah,
6 years I've been
yeah.
living in this guy's mind. He saw me being funny on stage, introducing this other speaker, Brian Tracy. So I think networking is magical.
Yeah,
It's so magical. You don't know what's going to happen. So if you just put great energy out there every day on a consistent basis, things will happen.
yeah, yeah, I really love that. So thank you so much, Malcolm, for being on the show today. And I can't wait to see what happens 6 years ahead from now. Who might say, oh, I heard you on Josefine Meets or whatever. That would be
Absolutely.
so fun. So thank you so much, Malcolm.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
Thank